Rightio, we're live. I'm just going to polish my little glasses so I can do a little bit of reading when the comments do come up. Well, what a week of cricket we've had. New Zealand getting absolutely thumped by Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka staying in the World Test Championship Series. And India and Bangladesh game looked as though it was going to be washed out. Only a couple of days left in the game, and they still got a result. So we're going to talk about that after we just have a little quick break. Roll bumper, please, AK. Rightio, just before we talk about India, Bangladesh, I'm just having a look at Anupam Dev. He's the first one that's got online. Anupam with Bravo as KK mentor. Do you see Narayan Russell as top retentions or not? I think even if Bravo was not there, Anupam, they'll definitely keep Narayan and Russell. They've always done that, KKR. They're the two players that they really set up their team around because both of them are pretty good with the ball and also dynamite with the bat, especially Narayan. You can use him at different phases of the game where he comes out and opens, but sometimes you can leave him out the back end there and he can come in and dominate in those final overs, but he's probably more potent in those power play overs. So Anupam, welcome. Yes, it's great to be live. And who have we got there? Surya Jets, Sengutta. KKR should retain Rinko Singh, Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, and Varun Chakravarti. Randeep Singh and Rana as RTMs. Surya Jets, I like what you're saying there. Chakravarti, just a little bit concerned about him. I might throw him back in the auction and use him as a right to match card as well. But I like the way that you're thinking. Good to see some KKR fans getting on board there. Now, let's just have a quick chat about the India-Bangladesh test match. Bangladesh, I thought, were just thinking about playing for a draw, especially after losing a couple of days. India came out and really put them on the back foot, and the way they batted in the first innings all of a sudden put pressure on Bangladesh. And when it came time to bat in the second innings, they didn't know whether to play for the draw or to play aggressively. For me, I felt that they should have gone after the Indian bowling, try to put on as many runs as possible. If they got 200 in front of India, India would have had less overs to chase that 200 down, and they would have had a chance of causing a little bit of an upset. But we're going to go through it. We're going to look at a couple of players. And when we get to Rohit Sharma, I'll talk about his captaincy because he didn't make too many runs with the bats. Okay, who are we firstly looking at? AK, whipping on to the list here. And we've got Jaswell. I really like the way that this young kid's game is really accelerating. He's dominant up the top order. He can play in different forms of the game. The only thing that I was worried about him in the IPL that we just saw lately when he was playing for Rajasthan Royals, opening the batting there, I just felt when he's going after the bowling, he slightly loses his shape. And I saw slight moments of that when he was going after the bowling in the test match as well. When he comes up on bouncier tracks, he's got to make, when coming to Australia, if he's got to play that more aggressive role up the top of the order and try and put a quick total on the board to put pressure on Australia, I just like him to keep his shape a little more. Just leaning back a little too much with the extra bounce in Australia, that might cause a problem. But he's got a good eye and that might help him get away with it. But I'm just loving watching him bat, especially left-handed batsman, young, exuberant, and I just love him in the field as well. He's got such a bright future and I'm going to enjoy watching him. The next one we're going to talk about is the captain. Jaswell's opening partner, look at that, 23 off 11. He hit a couple of sixes in the first innings. He was trying to slog there in the second innings as well, trying to take one over mid wicket, and he got it on the bottom of the bat and just pushed it out to cover. But the thing that I like about Rohit Sharma in this Test match was his actual captaincy. He realised that there was still an opportunity to put Bangladesh under pressure. Bangladesh not really a threat when it comes to the World Test Championship table. They saw an opportunity to get some extra points. They thought, right, we can bowl them out if we can get 80 overs out them. And he was prepared to be behind the total of Bangladesh in that first innings just to make sure that they've got 80 overs to bowl them out in the second innings to give themselves a chance to be able to mow down the runs in that final day. So Rohit Sharma's positive captaincy out the top is exceptional. And I think that's what you've got to have when you're playing World Test Match Championship cricket now, to get points on the board so that you get in that final. And I'm really hoping that he brings that aggressiveness, that aggressive mindset down here to Australia as well, because I think Australia can be vulnerable when they're put on the back foot against that type of approach. So watch out for that. Australia won't have David Warner in this particular Test series as well, so there's opportunities to really create that extra pressure on Australia with inexperience out the top of the order if they don't go with Steve Smith, or a little bit of inexperience in the lower order if they go with Travis Head to open the batting and bring someone else to bat in that middle order. And also Cameron Green might not be playing as well. So Rohit Sharma's mindset might be changing things around. I'm liking that. Who have we got up next there, please, AK? Whip him on there. And KL Rahul. Now, I was quite critical about KL coming back into this lineup at the start of the Test series. I wanted Sarfraz to be in there because I think Sarfraz is young, he's explosive, plays a more aggressive brand of cricket. But after watching Rahul batting this second Test match, he was awesome. He was dynamite. And just I'm starting to think moving forward, coming down here to Australia, his presence, his ability just to slow or play a more conservative innings might be what India need down here in Australia. If he bats a long time with Virat Kohli in that middle order, after having some explosiveness from Jaswell, Gill and Rohit Sharma up the top, I think they can wear the Australian bowlers down, especially in the first couple of Test matches, and then they can gather that momentum later on in the series with a few wary fast bowlers. So Rahul in that lower order or in that middle order is very vital for India to have a chance of beating Australia on Australian soil. So well done to KL Rahul. And you zipped my mouth up, and that's what I like. And I like the long hair as well with a little ponytail, showing a little bit of character there. Okay, who have we got up next? We've got Virat Kohli. Now, he's been under the pump over the last year or two. People saying that he's not up to the mark. Should his position in this team, or is his position in this team in jeopardy? I don't think it is. I think as the World Test Championship gets closer to that final, he comes down here to Australia. I think we'll see the best of Virat Kohli out the back end of this year. And having to play a little bit more aggressive brand of cricket against Bangladesh as well, especially in the first innings, you could just see that the passion's still there and the form's still there. And when he gets a big score, he's going to get a couple on the trot. So I'm very wary of him coming down here to Australia. He looks in good form. But with Jaswell, I talked about Jaswell's weakness with Virat Kohli. Just playing or chasing that ball wide of off stump where he's got that beautiful drive through the covers, Australia will be trying to attack that little area early on when he comes out of the crease. So that's something that Virat Kohli's got to be watchful of when he comes here to Australia. If he can counteract that, I think he's going to have a big series here down under. Who have we got up next for you, please, AK? Oh, Pant. Only 9 and 4, but in the first Test match he was dynamite. And look, it's just great to have him back in the lineup. He can change the game. You need that dynamic player in the lower order. Being a keeper as well, being very agile, it's just great to see him back. And he complements the whole Indian batting lineup, especially with Jadeja and Ashwin to follow him after he comes out, and you can utilise him at different parts of the game as well. Utilise him as a floater, and I really like the way that Rohit Sharma took the risk there of bringing him up the order when they needed quick runs. So Rishabh Pant is going to be, I think he's going to have a very big series down here in Australia, and he'll have a big series against New Zealand when New Zealand hit Indian shores just around the corner. And that's where he'll really pick up his form, get some runs under his belt before he gets down here to Australia. We're going to talk about Boomerang next. This guy is just absolutely sensational, just good lines, good lengths, applies the pressure, and all of a sudden, when you're up against the other two bowlers that India have got in the pace attack, you feel as though that you've got to be a little bit more aggressive against them, because Boomerang controls the state of play, the run flow, and then you've got Ashwin and Jadeja who can also keep the pressure on out the other end. You're thinking, where am I going to score my runs? So you're going to attack the likes of Siraj and other bowlers that India will utilise around those particular bowlers. I think India have got a very good balanced bowling attack, especially coming down here to Australia. And we're going to just quickly talk about Ashwin as he comes on here. Ashwin, just a great thinker of the game. I love the way that he's got his varieties, but I love the way he thinks. When he's batting, he's just going out there and just thinking, not thinking too much about it, just playing when the ball comes, see ball, hit ball, doesn't think of it too much. But then he changes his mindset when he's bowling. He's thinking a couple of balls ahead, how he's going to set up the batsman. Any young off spinner out there that wants to play international cricket or cricket at the highest level, watch Ashwin and watch the way that he changes his approach in the different formats as well. That's why he's been so successful. So you can learn a lot from Ravi Ashwin. Now, we're going to have a few talking points before we get some questions underway. Hang on. We've got to talk about someone from Bangladesh, because we've got some Bangladesh supporters out here. Monmul Haq. He was one player that had to stand up for Bangladesh in this particular series, getting 107 in that first innings. I thought that was absolutely sensational, especially under a little bit of pressure as well. I think there's a lot of upside for Monmul Haq, but he's got to start proving that over the next year or two. He's got to be a little bit more consistent, and I think he's got more talent than what he's shown, and I think he can play a big part for Bangladesh, really troubling opposition teams as Bangladesh try and rearrange their team over the next couple of years when a couple of older players are leaving. I think there's a lot of upside for Bangladesh. They've got a lot of youth there. If they can maintain that youth, grow that youth, and create a better culture within their unit, a culture where they back themselves, get right behind each other and believe in themselves, they will have the ability in about 3 or 4 years' time to be able to upset the big nations of Australia, England, as well as India. But they've got to make sure they get the right coaching staff behind them. And Monmul Haq is going to play a big part there. So we're going to move on to the IPL, aren't we? Okay. Quickly, before we get the questions. Right, retention, 6 players of their existing squad. I like this. I would have liked them to be able to retain 8 players, because I think just with the T20 game, you want to have that solid core of players that you can keep for the long term. You want to be able to create a culture around a certain group of people, and those people are the core of the culture. New players coming in, it's easier to adapt. I think the less players that you have, 6, is just pushing the boundaries there to be able to maintain that culture. So I would have liked to seen 8 players being maintained. But in this, with the way that they've got it, you're able to have 6 players that you can retain. One of them's uncapped, but the other one is that you can have, if you don't want to retain 6 players, you've got 6 opportunities to have a right to match with other teams bidding for their particular players. So I like that particular system. But if I was any team and I've got 6 brilliant players in there, I wouldn't be wasting my time and putting them back in the auction and hoping that I can match with right to match cards, because you might be paying a lot more uh, than the players actually worth, and I wouldn't really take that risk of losing my core players. But I like the way that the IPL have got that system in play. But as I said earlier, I would have liked to seen 8 players rather than 6. The more, the merrier. What's the next point that we've got up there with the IPL auction there, please? We've talked about the right to matches. Just quickly, can we move on to the next point, please, AK? Rightio, retention price tags 18, 14, 11 crore. Then the fourth player 18 crore, 14 and 4, 79 crore. That's well over half of your purse. So you're taking a really big risk there in getting your 6 players and maintaining those 6 players. But as it seemed through past IPLs, it's worth it, because those 6 players are the core of your group. Those 6 players create that culture and set up a great foundation for your cause. And if you've got 6 quality players that are also quality people and quality leaders, you're well ahead of the pack. And then you can just look out other options out there in the world to really balance the team around that 6. And basically, those 6 players are basically going to win you most matches anyway. So I would utilise that option if I've got 6 quality players in my lineup. Okay, next talking point, okay, because we've gone 16 minutes. Gee whiz, it's going to be a long one, this one. The auction purse, 120 crores. I like that, and it's going to increase every year. I think that's very important, because you want to keep that interest. You want it to keep the tournament growing, and you want to maintain it as the best tournament in the globe. And I don't think there's any competition out there, whether you're up the purse or not. I just think the IPL is the best competition going around in the globe. But it's good that the IPL and the BCCI are willing to reward the players, and this gives opportunity for the lesser players to get more money, those lower end players as well, because some of those players aren't getting enough to make a living out of it. So there's an opportunity to create a little bit more safety net there for the lesser players out the back end of your squad. So well done to the BCCI there. The next one is we've getting player payments as well, 7.2 Indian crore. That's around about $9,000 US. I made a quick vlog of it during the week. The only thing I'm worried about it, especially with the Delhi Capitals owners buying Hampshire in England and looking to get full rights of that 100 team, if this starts to be the mainstay of it, getting match fees in all T20 tournaments where Indian owners are playing a big part there, it might affect the international game, especially Test cricket moving forward, because players are getting paid the same amount for a 20-over match as what they would for a Test match, and that's not what we want to see. We want to see Test matches surviving, especially in the nations such as Sri Lanka, West Indies, New Zealand, those teams that don't get paid much. So we just got to make sure that we keep the balance right there. So I'm a little bit worried about this move, but it is a good move, because the players that are playing are getting rewarded a little bit more than the players that are sitting on the bench. So it's a positive move from the BCCI, but it could have a negative impact in the Test arena. We've got a couple of more points. Okay, we'll quickly go through that, and then we'll get to some questions. Overseas players, they've got to put their name in the big auction and register, and they can't pull out. So I think this is a great move by the BCCI. The only thing that I have around about with overseas players registering, what about if a player is not in the first class arena overseas at the moment, but starts his first class career over the next year or two? Surely there's got to be a provision there for that particular player to be able to register in the auctions that are coming through over the next couple of years. So I would like the BCCI, should I say, to look at that particular scenario. The other scenario too, if a player is injured going to the auction and that injury is going to keep him out for the first year, why not allow that player to stay out of the auction? Because he's doing the right thing by not putting himself in there, getting someone to pick him up, and then having to pull out of the auction, pull out of the IPL next year because of injury. So I think you've just got to have a few provisions for those particular scenarios. We've got one last point on overseas players. If they do pull out, they get banned for a 2-year period. I like this. I like this rule because you've made a commitment to a team and you know what your schedule is for the next couple of years, both on the international stage, your domestic cricket as well, and you know that the IPL is coming around. So once you make that commitment, you should stick to that commitment and uphold that contract. The only way that you can get out of this clause is through an injury. That's the only time you can pull out without getting the 2-season ban. Great stuff by the BCCI. Okay, let's. AK is the person behind the scenes helping me out with these vlogs. He does such a great job. Okay, let's get a couple of questions up there, please. AK, I see Scratch Andra is on the comment section. Welcome, Scratch Andra. There's a few other people there as well. So I'm just waiting, OK, to get the first question up, please, mate, if that's all right. Okay. Oh, Sarat Chandra. Sarat Chandra. Sir, thanks very much for the question. Indian players looked rusty in the first test versus Bangladesh due to lack of red ball cricket. Will Australia also feel the same in BGT, or few Sheffield Shield matches enough? And who are the backups of 3 fast bowlers in BGT? Okay, can you get on? And I'm trying to work out what BGT is. What is BGT? BGT. Feel the same in BGT. I'm trying to work that one out. Look, you are going to look a little bit rusty going into a test match. I think India looking at Bangladesh, they're looking to just use that as an opportunity to get their rhythm in the red ball game. There's so much cricket going around. You've got to make sure that your players do get a rest. For me, I wouldn't be too worried about India moving forward. When you're looking at Australia, Border Gavaskar Trophy. Gee whiz. If you put it in cap letters, I probably would have got that. But there you go. Young Hogster can get confused with a few acronyms out there. But for me, India, they're just starting to get their momentum. They've got India next. After playing against Bangladesh, they've got a little bit of rust out of their system. They'll dominate against New Zealand, and by the time they get to Australia, they'll be raring and ready to go. On the Australian front, the Australian players, if they can play a few Sheffield Shield matches, that's just enough for them to be ready for that test arena. But I don't think they'll get, some of them won't get that opportunity because they'll be playing against Pakistan in white ball cricket just before that test series happens. And look, at the end of the day, they're professional cricketers. They've got to be able to adapt. They've got to be able to adjust. If you want to play all formats, you want to play in the T20 leagues, you want to play IPL cricket, there's no excuses. You've got to make sure that you have your training regime to be able to counteract those changes between the different formats. And when you go from one-day cricket to test cricket, there's a slight difference there. You've got to be a little bit more attacking in the one-day format, but it's not as big as going from a T20 series to a one-day series. But mind you, there are some one-day games. I think there's 3 one-day games and 3 T20s against Pakistan. That won't have a huge impact for Australia moving forward. Who are the backup 3 fast bowlers in? I think Shami should be right by the time you get down there. I won't be too worried about it. And the bowlers that you did have against Bangladesh, I think that's all you need coming down here to Australia. The only bowler that I'd like to be included in there is to have Shami fit. Other than that, I think you've got good depth. I like the way that the bowler's been hitting a good line and length against Australia, against Bangladesh, and if they can maintain that control when they come down here to Australia, I think the quality that you've got there is good enough to beat Australia. Now it's just about hitting the top of off and trying to control that 4-stump line on a good length here in Australian conditions with that extra bounce. You've got to get the length right here. And I'm quite comfortable that your fast bowlers are going to be good enough down here to trouble Australia. Good point there. Good point. Next question, please, AK. Just going to quickly go back up. Vasanat Narayan. Does Bazball work in Australia? With injuries plaguing Australia, will it affect Australia preparation versus India? And how do you foresee a green injury on Australia potential squad rejig? For me, Vazat, I don't think the Bazball, the Bazball works in Australia. You look at Australia during that 2000 period where they had the period of dominance. I was trying to score out 4 runs and over through that particular period. They were kind of trying to play that Bazball type game. But I think Bazball, sometimes we overanalyze it. They're not much more aggressive than what Australia were back then. You've got to make runs as quickly as possible in that first innings to give your bowlers as much chance to bowl the opposition out twice. And that's the way that Australia go about it. So Bazball down here in Australia will work. I think Bazball, even in India, can work as well, especially trying to make the most of that first innings over there before the wicket starts to break down and spinners really take control. The injury plague to Green here in Australia, is that going to affect the balance of the team? Yes, it most certainly will, because you need Green to bowl those few overs. You've got Mitchell Marsh down there in the lower order bowling some medium paces as well, but he doesn't. He also has injury problems, and the Australian medical staff don't really want Mitchell Marsh to bowl as many overs as what they have been with Green. So that's going to be a huge problem. So for me to rejig that Australian lineup, I think that the way they'll go about it, they'll go with Steve Smith going back to number 4, keep Travis Head in that lower order. I would have had Travis Head coming up and opening the batting in the Test series, but now that Green might not be there, have Travis Head in the middle order and either have Harris, Renshaw, or Cameron Bancroft opening the batting for Australia against India if Green is not fit. That's how I'd set it up. I don't think there are too many players in Australia that can really come in and handle that middle order. Or, put it this way, there's a kid called Aaron Hardy. He might be ready to be able to come into that middle order, do the Cam Green job, batting in that lower order, but also bowling a few balls, and then you can push Travis Head up to open the batting, and Steve Smith coming in at number 4. But really what you're doing there is you're putting a lot of pressure in that area of 6 and 7. You might have to have Hardy batting out 5, Mitchell Marsh with the experience batting out 6, and then Carey following. So that's how I'd rejig the Australian team. Gee, there's a few headaches there. Vasanat, Narayan, I think that's a good question. Thanks very much for that question. I like it. Vazant, that's the way to say it. Harris S. Hi, Hoggy. Greetings. Do you feel this uncapped new rule, more biased towards CSK, old capped, uncapped rule was good? And what's your comments on Pakistan's cricket future and what they can do better to improve? Okay, the first rule with the uncapped rule, I think that's good. You've got a lot of players there that you want to keep in the system. I don't mind it, because once players go past a certain length of time when they've been out of the international stage, then all of a sudden I think you've got to make them uncapped players. because they're trying to keep longevity in their career. You want them around for that longer period of time. You don't want them chopping and changing teams as well. So for me, I think it's good with the new uncapped rule. People can say it's biased to CSK, but it can be biased to other teams as well if they use it appropriately in some aspects. So for me, it's going to benefit other teams down the track, as it will benefit CSK in this particular scenario. With Pakistan are all over the shop. They've been changing board members, directors, presidents, CEOs, coaches. They've got to get some consistency. They've just got to sit there and go, right, for the next 2 years, these are the people that are going to be involved out the helm. These are the people that are going to captain our team. How can we create a good culture within our playing group? So it's a long road. I think Pakistan are in a lot of trouble at the present moment, but they can change it around. They've got good people out the helm in Jason Gillespie and Kirsten as the head coaches. So they've got to back them. But those two particular coaches have got to understand the culture within Pakistan cricket as well and adjust their methods to adapt there. But Pakistan somehow have to change the way they approach it out in the middle. And this is a difficult thing too, because the Pakistan culture is a little bit different to the Australian culture as well. Because in the Australian culture or the England culture, if you're a new player, you can virtually walk into the change rooms and you're accepted. And if you think things aren't right, you can raise a concern. So you've got a little bit more freedom to speak up. But when you're in that Pakistan culture, there's still a little bit more hierarchy in there. And it's harder for the younger players to get settled when they do come in there because of that difference in culture. So somehow they've got to adjust there to make it more inviting when younger players come in, where they can feel a little bit more comfortable in the setup, and then they'll move ahead a little quicker than what I think they are. But they're going to be in trouble for the next couple of years. They've got to change things around, and it all comes from the top, the leadership group. And I don't think they have the right leadership capacity there. I'm looking at Babar Azam as well. He's a quality player, and I think he gets pressure from decisions, both on and off the field, from people higher up in the organisation that aren't actually in that playing setup or in the coaching setup as well. So you've got to, I think Pakistan have to work out a way where the BCCI organisation of directors, staff, in the administration side of things, stay away from the cricket side of things, and the cricket players stay away from the administration side of things. Once you've got those two having a go at each other, you're not going to create a good culture. So big problems there. Harish, that is a very good point. I like it. I like it. Good question. Next question, please, there, AK. Okay, we've got Austin Dakuna. How are you going? Hey, Hoggy, do you think Rohit will stay at Mumbai Indians? If not, should RCB look to make him captain? Your RCB retentions. Paddy Dar is one of them. And then you've got Kohli. Will you go with Duplessis? Is Duplessis going to come back? I don't know about that. I'd stick with Cameron Green. I'd stick with Siraj as well. They're probably my 4 retentions. Rohit Sharma staying out Mumbai Indians. I don't know whether I think Mumbai Indians are going to keep him there because he's a prominent player. He's a figurehead. He's a captain of India, and plus he'll want to stay there as well because he lives in Mumbai. So why would you want to move? If I was RCB, I wouldn't be going after him. I'd be looking at other younger players to go after rather than Rohit Sharma. So because you've got Virat Kohli there, you've got other experienced players. I'd look for youth because the game's changing. You also want to make sure that you've got quality fielders out there that are a little bit more agile. Rohit Sharma is a good fielder, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the agility in the field, he's starting to get a little bit too old, and he's just losing that flexibility there. So for RCB's point of view, I probably wouldn't go after him. I still think he's going to stay at Mumbai Indians. Someone did bring up a call that Mumbai Indians should get rid of him. There's no way that they're going to get rid of an icon player like that. Good point there, Austin DeCuna. I like it. Hope you like my retentions for RCB as well. Surely RCB have to turn things around and get back on track as well. When I'm looking down here, I've got my computer and I've got all the questions coming up in bigger font because it's coming off the camera up there. So when I'm looking down, I'm not leaving you guys there. Awad Agarwal, Hogsir, in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the BGT, out of all 5 venues in which India can play 2 spinners. Look, I think they've got the ability to play both spinners in Jadeja and Ashwin and have the same balanced team that they've got now with 3 paces in every venue. I just think they're quality spinners, but they also add depth in their batting lineup. But if you're going to play the 2 spinners for the majority of the time, I think Sydney and the MCG would be the 2 venues that really hold that balance to greater scope. When you're playing out Perth, Brisbane, there's extra bounce. It's more favourable to pace. But if you have Shami in there with Boomer as well as Siraj on those 3 venues, you can still go with 2 paces because those 3 paces will be enough to put the pressure on the opposition batsman. And plus, you've got Ashwin, who's a tall bowler that can get a little bit of extra bounce, and you've got Jadeja, who's a little bit skiddier. I think Jadeja, these 2 spinners complement each other. I think Jadeja in conditions over in Australia is more suited to first innings bowling, and Ashwin's more suited to second innings bowling when the wicket breaks up. What I mean by that is Jadeja doesn't spin the ball as much, and in that first innings, it's a little skiddier, and it can hurry on to the batsman, and he's got more opportunity of getting the LBWs and getting the gap between bat and pad. So that's why I'd say that you play the 2 spinners on all venues because you can utilise them in different scenarios of the Test match. Good question there, Owen. I think it's going to be a great series. I can't wait for it. Anupam, which team, according to you, will have more sleepless nights in this retention phase? Well, I think Lucknow will definitely have more sleepless nights, and I think Punjab Kings will have sleepless nights as well because there's 2 Australian coaches that are in charge of those particular teams. Justin Langer will be going in for the first time with his mega auction, and Ricky Ponting going to Punjab Kings 11 after leaving Delhi Capitals and not having the success that he wanted. Will want to try and prove a point there. So he'll be having a few sleepless nights down there in the retention phase as well. Who do they go with? I think also with the question beforehand, RCB, they'll be also having issues with their retention because they haven't had that success in IPL with what's expected of them. And RCB have to find a group of players that are suited to RCB conditions because you've got to win the majority of your home games to be able to have a chance of getting into those playoffs. So those are the 3 teams that are going to have sleepless nights moving forward. Actually, Mumbai Indians might have a few sleepless nights as well with the Rohit Sharma scenario raising its ugly head as well. Anupam, that's a great question. Thanks very much for that. And I've got a sleepless night thinking about that right now. Have we got one more question, AK, before we go? Austin DeCuna, Hoggy Sir, today is Rishabh Pant's birthday. What's your favourite memory of him? Should he be India's next captain after the T20 2025 World Test Championship final? My greatest memory of him is taking Australia apart down here in Australia. I like the way that he goes about his business, and I like his byplay with the Australian Test captain back last time they were here, or against Tim Payne. I just love his explosiveness. There's too many memories of him, and I just think it's great that he's having another birthday. He's recovered from that accident, and he's back playing Test cricket. So I think my favourite memory of him when his career finishes is the resilience and the ability to be able to recover from a major incident like he did with that accident, to come back and play with the freedom that he has now. I just love the way that he goes about it. Will he be the next Test captain after the T25 World Test Championship final? Let me think about that quickly. I think he's definitely got the ability to be the captain. I think he's got a cool head on his shoulders. I like the captain to be behind the stumps as well. He understands what the bowler's trying to do. He can get the right angles as well. And I think the leadership role will be a good omen for Pant. I think you will see the best cricket coming out of him as keeper, rather than just being a player behind the stump. So for me, I think he will be the next Test captain for India in the Test arena. You've put me on the spot there, Austin D'Cunha. What do you think? Get your comments downstairs, and we'll have a quick look about that afterwards. We've got one more question, okay, before we go. All right, Yash Kumar. Should Travis Head open, considering not only Border Gavaskar Trophy Series, but also Sri Lanka Series for qualification? I'd like him to open against the Sri Lankan Series as well. I think he's better suited up the top of the order. The ball coming on, he can be a little bit more aggressive, and what that does, puts pressure on the bowlers if he comes off with the likes of Khawaja and Labuschagne out the other end, who are a little bit more conservative or play a little bit slower game. So for me, for Travis Head, you've got to open the batting with him, put the pressure and the onus on the bowlers to change their game out the other end. And if he does that, what actually happens with the pressure on the bowlers trying to slow the run rate down, when they start bowling to the likes of Labuschagne and Khawaja, all of a sudden they've lost their line and length. They've lost their uniqueness of just trying to keep it nice and tight. They've lost the ability to put more catching fielders in play and be more aggressive against those other batsmen. And those other batsmen will get the benefit of it with a few loose balls from the bowlers on the opposition team. So for me, Travis Head has got to open out the top. And then you've got that balance of aggression out the top and aggression in the middle order with the likes of Mitchell Marsh, Aaron Hardy if he plays, and Cameron Green. So for me, I like Travis Head out the top. Yash Kumar, he's got to open against Sri Lanka if Australia are going to go in the Border Gavaskar Trophy with Travis Head opening the batting. Good point there, mate. Absolutely love it. Who have we got up next, AK? Or is that it for today? All right, Anupam, this is the last question for today. Your thoughts on overseas players no longer earning more than 18 crore in the IPL auction rule. Does it sit well with you? Yes, it does. It does sit well with me, because I want to see overseas players concentrating more on their international team rather than trying to make a living just out of IPL cricket. So it does sit well with me. Also, you want to reward your own countrymen as well. I think, having two Australian players earning excessive money more than Indian players is not right for the competition. I think you've got to make sure that there's enough in the pool to reward your India players, especially the players that get picked up out the back end. And what that does, the more money left for the players out the back end that are filling out the squads, the better it is moving forward, especially with the likes of little false heads in the game as well. You don't want a player having the ability to be able to, and we've seen this in other tournaments around with a little bit of spot fixing, that because players aren't earning enough money, you don't want them being sucked into those illegal activities as well. So more money in the pool for the lesser liked players is better for the game. So I like it, Anna Pump. Probably went a bit too far there, but there's so many things that I like about it with more money to Indian players. Good question there. Good question there. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. It's been absolutely sensational getting on here live, and let's enjoy the cricket around the corner. India have got New Zealand coming up, Australia, Sri Lanka, New Zealand as well. I mean, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, as well as India. I can't wait for that India-Australia series, the Border Gavaskar Trophy. It's going to be hot. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be exciting. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for enjoying what I do and getting behind me. And good luck to what you're doing today. And have a good weekend.